I'm trying to think what else to say. Hey, it's Sue.
And Megan in the restricted section.
And today we're going to do a review of Kindred, the graphic novel adaptation.
Yes. And while we do that, we're going to drink this Flesh Blood IPA from Dogfish Head.
We're going to see if Megan likes it. She doesn't usually like IPAs.
There's
I
been
love
a few
this one.
lately that I have liked. I think that I'm
You're
perhaps developing
a
a taste for IPAs here.
But this has, it's a well-hopped IPA brewed with orange peel, lemon flesh, and blood orange juice.
Well,
So it's kind of fruity.
Let's get up in it. The taste is really good. The smell almost got me.
Really?
It smells really hoppy. As I was drinking it, I was like, oh, I'm gonna hate this, but I don't. I like it.
I like this one a lot. It's definitely like a less hoppy IPA.
It is. If I find like I like IPAs if they're like tropical IPAs, I like those.
Yeah.
I like black IPAs, and if they're just like a little bit less, like if they're kind of fruity and a little bit less hoppy,
Yeah.
I like them. So I'm getting there.
Alright, so this book is an adaptation of the novel by Octavia Butler. And you guys know
The goddess, Octavia Butler.
We bow down to Queen Octavia.
Yes.
And it was adapted by Damien Duffy, and then the art is by John Jennings, I believe.
I think you're right.
I think that's the way it goes. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this, first of all, this is beautiful.
It is.
Look at the heart.
The naked cover
hardback
is beautiful.
Is even more beautiful.
It is.
So it's a visually stunning book.
It is aesthetically pleasing.
And we both got this for each other.
We got each other the
We
same
accidentally
gift.
got each other the same book
Yeah.
for Christmas. But if you have not heard of this book, this is about a woman named Dana, and she lives in the 1970s. And she is married to, she's black, she's married to a white man. And she, one day, just out of the blue, gets transported back in time to this plantation.
In the antebellum South.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she has to save her ancestor, who
is
happens
white.
to be a white boy. He's a child at the beginning of this novel. And,
Yeah, so she kind of gets involuntarily called back in time to save his ass whenever he's in a situation where he may die. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like she has to help him to protect her family line.
right.
Yeah.
And the way she discovers that she gets sent back to her own time is if her life is threatened.
Right.
Then she'll get sent back
to her own
to her own time, but she never knows when she's going to get sent back
Right.
to his time.
Right.
And we have both previously read the novel. It's more fresh for you. You read it, what, last year? I read it in college, so it's been a while for me. It's been, when did I graduate? I took
10? I think you graduated
2000,
in 10.
I graduated college in 2010, and I actually read Kindred in my women's lit class. We read it in class. And so it's been 8 years.
It's been many moons.
It's been about 8 years since I read Kindred. And I would like to reread it, but my mom has my copy, so.
My mom also has my copy.
Patty's.
Patty's.
Our mom's names are both Patty.
Kindred is a really good starting point for Octavia Butler if you're not into sci-fi or fantasy.
I agree. Because this is, you know, very light sci-fi.
Yeah, it's more historical fiction
definitely.
with a bit of sci-fi because there's time travel.
Right.
But
Yeah, but the time travel's not like a...
it's not like Doctor Who time travel.
Right, it's not...
Right.
And it's not... they don't explain it in any way. It's just... It just happens.
Right, she just gets sucked back in time and
Yeah.
then she's in, you know, the 1800s. So it's a really good starting point, like if you want to read Octavia Butler, which I feel like everyone should want to read Octavia Butler because she's amazing.
Yeah.
But that would be a really good opener.
Yeah, I agree. And The graphic novel, I think, I really enjoyed it. Like I said, the novel isn't super fresh in my mind, so I couldn't really say for sure which one I liked better. But this was really good, and I think that the illustrations, which are really well done, I think.
Yeah, they are.
Let me try to find something that's not too traumatizing to show.
Yeah, there's a couple of scenes that are very,
maybe like this,
very traumatic.
This page. So I think that the art is really well done, and it makes you much more uncomfortable, I think, when you're reading it, which is a good thing, I think, because it really hits home, like, what...
Because you should be uncomfortable with what's happening, you really should be. And when you can actually see faces of characters...
Right.
You know, it like kind of... The emotion on their face.
The violence, too, of what these, you know, white slave owners do to the slaves, and... Yeah, so I think seeing these things was... was kind of more impactful than just reading them.
I think so, especially when you consider that these are things that did happen.
Right.
Like, these are situations that did occur in U.S. history.
Yeah, and seeing the juxtaposition of, like, her in her life in the 70s with her white husband, and then at one point he gets sent back with her because he's, like, touching her.
He touches her when she's
getting sent and so back. He gets sent back with her, and so... that whole dynamic between them, because he has to pretend to be her owner, which is just very fucked up, you know?
Yeah.
It's really interesting to see how it affects their relationship as well.
Well, and she's talking about how she knows if they are there too long, it'll place will change him.
Yeah.
And then when he comes back, because she goes back to her own time before he does, and then she goes back to the past and basically, like, gets him, and they come back together. But
yeah, so he's there. He gets
for
stuck
several years
there for like 5 years, I think it was.
And when he comes back, she said at one point he looked at me, and the look in his face was something I had seen only in the...
Yeah, because when you're there, it becomes common, you know, commonplace. So you get desensitized to...
I wish I could, let me see if I can find the spot, like the line that I'm talking about, because... yeah, it says here, he gave me a look, an expression I had seen before. Something closed and ugly. Something I was used to seeing on Tom Weiland. Like, that really...
Who's the slave owner?
Who's the slave owner.
Yeah.
Like, that really got to me, because I was like, that's your husband. Like, that's your life partner. And he's looking at you the way a slave owner looks at you.
Right. Yeah, so I think that was a really interesting way to that. Like, I think that was brilliant on Octavia Butler's part to, like, have her white husband, you know, have a white husband
and explore that. You know, how their relationship would be affected were he exposed to the type of racism that existed.
Yeah, because I mean, because racism obviously was still rampant in
and they
the
talked
70s
about that
and
with
still
their
is now.
families.
But but it's like their relationship wasn't, you know, really
outlawed.
Really. Well, I mean, their relationship wasn't, you know, exactly accepted either.
No, it
in
wasn't,
the 70s.
because both of their families had an issue with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's kind of interesting because you're getting two... I mean, I'm not sure when this book was originally published. I think it was after the 70s.
I think so. I think it was probably in the 90s.
Murphy, like, what are you doing, buddy?
My dogs are terribly obedient. He wants you. He doesn't want me.
So, I think it's kind of interesting that you get a glimpse into, like, the 70s being a interracial couple.
Yeah.
And then also this look back.
Right, into the 1800s to see...
And it's like...
the differences and the similarities between the times, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought it was, like... one thing that I thought was kind of, like, really sad was that she had no control over when she got sucked back in time. So she was controlled by the distress of her white ancestor. Just like when she got pulled back in time, she was literally controlled by her white ancestor.
Yeah.
So it was like a parallel there between, you know, and I thought that was really sad, you know, because
and she ended up basically, you know, staying in her house all the time because if she, you know, just disappeared in public,
that would be a big fucking deal. Right.
And it's also interesting to see because, you know, in the beginning of the book, her ancestor, what was his name? Rufus is a little boy, and he's a sweet little boy. Like, he's innocent,
he's a
and he's
good
sweet,
little kid,
and he's, like, friends with the
African American.
Yeah. And seeing how he becomes
like his dad,
like his father, basically. And not as bad as his father.
No, not as cruel as his father,
horrible.
but still terrible.
But still terrible.
Right.
And to see that, like, this little boy was, like, turned into this monster, kind of, you know?
Yeah. Well, and it was interesting, too, to me that she had to really consider, because he became pretty terrible before her ancestor was born. And so, like, she kind of had to weigh, like, I'm sure she wanted to kill him many times. Yeah. But she couldn't until her ancestor was born, or she herself may cease to exist. So, like, to me, it was interesting that an action that he takes toward the end causes her to act in a way that she wouldn't normally. Try not to be spoilery.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that she... All right, so this is not going to be spoiler-free. I can't do this and just be spoiler-free. So this part, if you don't want spoilers, don't listen to me right now. Just fast forward past this. He tries to rape her, and she kills him.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me that that was the trigger, because she had been beaten, she had been horribly abused, she had seen people be horribly abused, she had seen people get sold because of this man, but that was the trigger. Like, that was the selling point for her to kill him, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. And my one little complaint with this adaptation of the book is that, and this is still going to be spoilery, at the end, I felt like they kind of glossed over the part where she
lost
her arm.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely in the illustrations.
Right.
You can see it.
But they don't talk about it like they did in the book.
Yeah, they don't mention it at all. And I feel like that was an important part because
literally, like, here she is losing her arm, and then there's like 2 pages of her with a lost arm, and that's it.
And because, like, I don't know, I feel like that was really symbolic of her, you know, losing a part of herself.
Absolutely.
And getting a part of herself taken away, really. Because the reason she loses it is because Rufus is holding on to it.
Yeah.
So it's like he takes a piece of her.
Right. And I think that is so symbolic. And it's not, I don't think it's really well done in the book. In the book, it really talks about it.
In the graphic novel, like, it's in
2 pages.
It's in the illustrations, but it's not mentioned at all in the text.
Right.
So that was kind of like my only beef with the graphic novel adaptation, from what I can remember. Again, like I said, it's been a long time since I read the novel, so if it was more fresh in my brain, maybe there would be other things that...
No, I think that's really my only beef with this as well. It doesn't really... I don't think it talks as much about, like, the problems their family had with them as a couple in the 70s in the graphic novel. I think the graphic novel focuses more on the historic parts.
Yeah.
Which I'm fine with.
Yeah, because the parts in the 70s are pretty short-lived for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I thought it was really well done, and I was kind of surprised because I was hesitant to read it. Like, I wanted to, but I was like, is a graphic novel version needed?
Right.
Was my thought.
Right.
And I really do think that it puts a different emphasis, kind of, you know, it
really does, because like I said, the graphic novel really focuses more on the historic parts of the novel.
Yeah.
And I mean, like you had mentioned before, I think it really drives home some of the, you know, seeing the violence and the, you know, I think it makes it more real.
Yeah, so I do think that it's, like, even if you've read the novel, I would still recommend reading the graphic novel version as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I would maybe read the novel first.
I would. I would read the novel first and then
Yeah.
read the graphic novel. But if I'm going to be honest, like, if anything has Octavia Butler's name on it, I'm going to read it.
Yeah, me too.
So, if it says Octavia Butler, I'm in.
So, do we have any more thoughts on Kindred?
I don't think so. I think that everyone should read it.
Yeah.
I think it is brilliant, and I think every reader should read it.
I agree.
That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and I gave it 4.5 stars. Like I said, the only part that really bothered me was that the part at the end.
Yeah, I would agree
so
with
I
that.
thought it was really, really well done.
Yeah, I think it's really, really good. So, there will be some links down below where you can find us elsewhere. Oh, we should probably revisit it. I like it. It's an IPA that I like.
Yeah. I like this one a lot too. This is kind of my go-to, one of my go-to beers.
It's a really good beer. Yeah. I really like Dogfish Head though.
Yeah, they have.
I was kind of worried that they were like overhyped when they first came to Springfield, but I've had really, really good beers from them. So I think they're a good brewing company.
Yeah, so I think this would be a good IPA if you're like kind of on the fence, like Megan is, where you're kind of like
iffy about IPAs. Kind of like Kindred is a good. It's a
good transition into
Octavia Butler.
I said that real weird.
Octavia Butler. Yeah. This is a good kind of transition into IPAs.
Yes.
So there will be some links down below where you can find us and Murphy elsewhere on social media.
Yeah. And if you have not subscribed to the restricted section,
and Murphy, please do.
Murphy, just come for Octavia Butler, stay for Murphy.
Stay for Murphy. And we will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.